This is not a story about trains. It's a story about promises and what happens when a nation tries to build something big and can't. Back in 2008, California unveiled its vision, the US's first true bullet train, clean, electric, and faster than flying from San Francisco to LA. But 15 years later, that dream is still buried under lawsuits, missing money, and 119 miles of unfinished track in the middle of nowhere. So, how did the most ambitious transportation project in America become a cautionary tale in slow motion? This is the story of the California High-Speed Rail. In 2008, Californians voted to fund what sounded like the future, a state-of-the-art high-speed rail line that would connect San Francisco and Los Angeles in under 3 hours. It would be all electric, powered by renewable energy, a sleek solution to traffic, emissions, and California's growing population. At the time, the cost was estimated at $33 billion. Completion date was 2020. And it wasn't just about speed, it was pitched as a social equalizer, a way to bring jobs and growth to the Central Valley, a project that would unite the North and South, coast and inland. It would eventually span 800 miles from Sacramento to San Diego with up to 24 stops, an American bullet train to rival Europe and Asia. But this isn't Tokyo. And in 2025, there has still been no train to board. Today, after over a decade of work, just 119 miles are under construction, all of it in the Central Valley between Bakersfield and Merced. No trains, no passengers, just bridges, viaducts, and a timeline that shifted from 2020 to maybe 2030. And the price? No longer $33 billion. The latest estimate to connect LA and San Francisco sits at around $128 billion. That's a $95 billion overrun for a train no one can ride. The project has become a political football, caught between state ambition and federal inaction, public hopes and private lawsuits. In a country that hasn't built high-speed rail before, California tried to lead the way. But the reality of building something this big through this much red tape is proving far harder than anyone imagined. When California broke ground in 2015, it didn't start in LA or San Francisco. It started here in the Central Valley. At first glance, it looked like a strange choice. Critics called it a train to nowhere. But there's a logic to it, and a legal reason too. The 2008 bond measure required the rail line to connect the Bay Area, Central Valley, and Southern California. It wasn't just about getting from city to city, it was about linking the forgotten middle. The Central Valley is home to more than 4 million people. If it were its own state, it'd be larger than half the US. It's also one of the most economically underserved regions in California. So this first 119-mile stretch, Merced to Bakersfield, was meant to prove what high-speed rail could do, bring jobs, stimulate growth, build momentum, but this stretch is also the cheapest and the easiest. The real challenge lies further south through the Tehachapi Mountains. To connect the Central Valley to LA, the rail line has to pass through rugged terrain, active fault zones, and steep elevation shifts. That means tunnels. Long, deep, expensive tunnels, some potentially 20 miles or more. It's the most technically demanding phase of the entire project. And right now, the plans exist only on paper. No boring machines, no drilling, not even funding. Until those tunnels are started, there's no connection to LA. And until there's a connection to LA, there's no bullet train. While California has spent the last 15 years debating, designing, and clearing lawsuits, Japan has run its bullet trains without a single fatal accident in over half a century. France's TGV has connected major cities at 200 plus MPS since the 1980s. And China? Since launching its first high-speed line in 2008, the same year Californians voted yes, it's built over 25,000 miles of high-speed rail. In the time it took California to start grading one valley segment, China connected nearly its entire country, from megacities to rural hubs. So what's the difference? It's not just about money or ambition, it's about systems. In countries like China, Japan, and even France, infrastructure decisions are centralized. Land acquisition is swift, permits move fast, politics are aligned behind the mission. In the US, everything is slower. Permits, environmental reviews, lawsuits, land negotiations. Add 50 layers of federal, state, and local agencies. And what could take 5 years elsewhere takes 15 here. It's the cost of democracy, some say. But it's also the cost of delay in jobs, innovation, and credibility. When California first pitched high-speed rail, the budget was ambitious, $33 billion. Today, the cost to complete the full line from San Francisco to Los Angeles is projected at over $128 billion, and there's no clear plan to pay for it. So far, the project has spent nearly $10 billion, most of it on environmental reviews, land acquisition, and construction in the Central Valley. 85% of funding has come from California's own bonds and cap-and-trade revenues. The rest? A trickle of federal dollars, most of which arrived back in 2009. But for a project this massive, that's not nearly enough. In countries like China or France, high-speed rail is a national project, backed by centralized authority. In the US, it's a political battlefield. In 2009, there was bipartisan support. But when President Obama announced plans to connect 80% of Americans with high-speed rail, the partisan split was instant. Support evaporated. Federal money dried up. Lawsuits began to pile in. At one point, California faced 12 separate lawsuits over land rights, environmental compliance, and use of bond funds. They've won most of them. But the time lost? Years. And in megaprojects, delays are expensive. Today, the project is still actively applying for federal grants. But competition is fierce. Other high-speed rail projects, like Brightline West between LA and Las Vegas, are gaining traction and political favor. Without renewed federal support, California's dream of high-speed rail may never cross the mountains, let alone reach San Francisco or LA. For all its flaws, California's high-speed rail isn't dead. It's just stuck. Tunnels haven't been dug. Trains haven't been built. But 422 miles of the route have already been environmentally cleared. Thousands of workers are on the job, and billions have already been spent. At this point, turning back would be more expensive politically, financially, and culturally than moving forward. Supporters say the Central Valley section can still prove its worth, connecting some of the state's fastest-growing cities and bringing investment to long-neglected communities. The Rail Authority is applying for new federal funding. If it arrives, tunnels to LA could begin. And eventually, the system could stretch from San Diego to Sacramento, just as voters imagined back in 2008. The question is no longer can we build this? It's do we still want to? Because the technology exists, the need exists, the first pieces are already being laid. It comes down to vision, political will, and whether California and the country are ready to finish what they started. So what do you think? Is high-speed rail still the future of American transit or a dream too ambitious to ever arrive? Drop your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more mega project deep dives, and we'll see you in the next one.